Hi, everybody. This is SAAD. I recently heard a story at the local cafe that I frequently attend that simply floored me. It deals with a gentleman. I won't mention his name, although he certainly deserves to be rendered famous. A gentleman that many of us had met at the cafe had apparently stated that he was suffering from terminal lung cancer and that he had uh, a few short months left to live. And he was also a retired firefighter. I think he had claimed that he had reached the rank of captain. And I've interacted with him many times. And that was it. And, of course, I felt bad that he was going through this, but I did notice that it seemed as though he was shockingly healthy for someone who was really at the tail end of fighting this dreadful disease. And then I didn't see him around the cafe for a long time, and so I asked one of the people who work at the cafe whether they had seen this person, whether they had heard anything of him. Of course, I was expecting to hear the worst possible news, because if he's not showing up anymore, then it must be that the trajectory of the disease had taken its course. And then he advises me that it turns out that the gentleman in question had been caught, you ready? Lying about suffering from terminal cancer. And so, of course, this had really shocked me. I thought, well, this can't make sense. I mean, of course, I've written an academic paper on Munchausen. Munchausen, for those of you who don't know, is when someone feigns being ill or sick or injured so that they can garner empathy and sympathy. Munchausen syndrome by proxy is where you take someone who is under your control or under your care, your child, your pet, your elderly parent, and you harm them so that you could then get garner the sympathy and empathy, because you're the mother of a ill child. It's a really diabolical psychiatric disorder. So I started thinking, well, yeah, it doesn't quite seem. I mean, maybe he's playing the sympathy angle, but something is fishy. I always thought there was something somewhat off with the gentleman in question. And so then I decided to wait for a while and go to the folks who might actually know him better at the cafe and seek some, details from them. And it turns out, you ready? That the gentleman in question had not only lied about his having terminal lung cancer then, but apparently he had stated something to the effect of this was the fourth time he was having, he had cancer. He had had cancer before. I don't know all the organs that he said, prostate cancer, and he had lung cancer before, and then it came back, and so on and so forth. He had never been apparently a firefighter. And then there were many other stories that I had not been familiar with that apparently came out to be total fabrications. And then apparently one of his ex-girlfriends who knew the woman in question who was telling me this said that he was abusive in the relationship and that he had even harmed her cat, which of course some of you know that psychopaths, serial killers, often have a history of animal cruelty. And so this really floored me, because this is someone, again, imagine that you interacted with, that you felt sorry for, that you felt anguish for, and that person was looking at you and just completely fooling you. So there you have it. Yesterday it came up in the context of a class discussion because I was talking about, various data collection procedures, physiological data collection procedures that allow us to collect marketing and consumer relevant data. For example, data to judge whether your facial muscles correspond to a particular emotional state. Those are the types of things that you can't fake. So, for example, if you try to fake a smile, then the types of muscles that would need to be activated if it were a true smile would not correspond to the ones that would typically be depicted if you were engaging in what's called a fake smile, what's called the non-Duchenne smile. Duchenne smile is a real smile. Non-Duchenne smile is a fake smile. And then when we're talking about these, various physiological apparatuses, I mentioned, of course, the lie detector test and how psychopaths are notorious for being able to beat it precisely because they don't experience the physiological signatures that correspond to internal angst, right? If you're an honest person and you state some lie, you will feel this internal tension because your conscious is telling you, wait a minute, you're lying. And then that will manifest itself via certain physiological signatures. Well, the psychopath doesn't have that remorse, doesn't have that conscience, doesn't have that inner voice, and therefore they can beat the test. And so, in a sense, when this gentleman is sitting with people and telling them these stories, well, of course, people are adept at trying to pick up if you're telling the truth or not. And the fact that he was able to deceive so many people for so long suggests that maybe he's not a great guy. I'm not sure if he'll listen to this, but if he'll watch this. But if you do watch this, shame on you for having done what you've done. But more than anything, if you did harm that animal, oh boy. Have a good day, everybody.